What's up, guys? This is the Osmo.com Night Shift Podcast. We are talking MLB for Wednesday, June 13th. We've got a couple nice slates here with good pitching all around, so I'm excited to get into this. Get to Osmo.com, check out the ownership projections, check out the rankings that we have for each slate. So they'll be out early tomorrow morning, and then for the main slate, same thing. They'll be updated throughout the day, which is always nice. Let's get into these two slates on DraftKings. We've got I believe it's a 5-game early slate they're doing. But let me just make sure on that because I researched all the games, but I just want to make sure I'm not talking about a game that is not on the slate. So let's go to DraftKings. All right, it starts at 12:10 my time, so that is 1:10 Eastern, I believe. All right, cool. So the Mets-Braves game is not on the early slate, so just keep that in mind on DraftKings. So we'll start with Toronto and Tampa Bay. We've got J.A. Happ going up against Wilmer Font, and then I don't know who's coming in for relief just yet, but Happ has been able to strike out a lot of guys this year. This sets up as a pretty good matchup against the Rays, who are pretty much fielding a AAA team these days. And I'm assuming he'll be somewhat low-owned with Sale on the slate. So I don't mind taking the discount with Happ. I mean, I prefer to get Sale in every single lineup. But Happ is a pretty decent consolation, and he's going to get you a different lineup. Just make sure you check on those ownership projections tomorrow morning before you set your lineups. The Tampa Bay bats I like are Ramos and C.J. Cron, and that's about the extent of it. Just two guys I always look to play against lefties, but not going crazy with any Tampa Bay stack or anything. So Font is going, and then I'm not sure who's going after him, but this guy's getting lit up against both righties and lefties. 92.6 mile an hour average exit velocity to lefties. Over 91 against righties. I don't mind stacking up some Toronto bats here, depending on who is coming in after Font. I don't know whose turn it is, so it's tough to get clarity on the Rays the night before when they're doing this stuff with relievers. I've said I think it's a smart thing they're doing, starting the relievers and then bringing in the actual starter for extended innings, but it does make it a little bit more difficult for us for DFS. So we'll talk about that more tomorrow. Cubs and Brewers, Mike Montgomery going up against Yuli Chacin. Two cheap pitchers here. I like Montgomery quite a bit as a pitcher. He's got an elite chase rate, and he just eats innings. He racks up a few strikeouts here and there. And I know what the numbers say about the Brewers against lefties. I don't think they should be as bad against lefties as the team numbers show, but I mean, I have a hard time rostering a lefty against Braun Aguilar and Kane, and just they've got some guys that should pound lefties. They should pound lefties as a team, but they really haven't. So Montgomery, there's a case to be made for him for sure for 6,800. I'm going to have exposure to him, and because I want to pay up for Chris Sale and J.A. Happ, so going to need an SP2 somewhere. But I do like Braun, Aguilar, Lorenzo Cain, Manny Pena, the guys I mentioned as one-offs or even as a stack. I mean, I'll have both sides of that for sure. Yuli Chacin against the Cubs is tougher for me to play. The Cubs are just getting on base so much against righties. I'm not really looking to play right-handed pitchers against them. They're also not really striking out that much, which I'm a little bit surprised by. So Cubs bats, Rizzo, Schwarber, Zobrist, Hayward, I think they're all fantastic options. Even Ian Happ, if he's batting down in the order, he's a guy I will intentionally target in my Cubs stack. Just kills righties, hits them very hard. He strikes out a lot, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a ton of Cubs here when everyone else is paying up for pitching, and I think that's a really good option. But this is one of those spots where I think you can go with Happ and a cheaper pitcher and get in a Cubs stack where you might not be able to do the same type of thing with Sale for $2,600 more. Boston and Baltimore, Chris Sale, I've alluded to him a couple times so far. He's the one to pay up for on this slate, in my opinion. 13.5 on DraftKings is really, really tough, but I'm just going to continue to target any good pitcher against the Orioles Manny Machado makes for the one guy that I think would be somewhat contrarian and somewhat of a smart play if you're targeting against Sale, but it's tough to target against Sale on such a short slate. I'm not sure who is going for the Orioles. I know Cashner is on the DL. It was supposed to be him. So we will see what the Orioles plan on doing with their starting pitcher. But if it's a righty against Boston, you know what to do. Stack up Boston. They've just been so good against righties all year. And I expect that to continue with Mookie Betts back in the lineup. Pittsburgh and Arizona. We have Jameson Taillon going up against Zach Greinke. Taillon has been elite to righties, but the Diamondbacks are actually starting to hit much better, and they're quickly becoming a team I'm not looking to target against. So if they were more righty-heavy, I would have a lot of interest in Taillon. But against lefties, only 18% K rate, 1.73 whip, 22% line drive rate. So he's clearly struggling against the left-handed bats, and Arizona has some that can make him pay, specifically Lamb, Descalso, Peralta, and then Goldschmidt's just been hot as anyone. So even against Taillon, who's really good against righties, I don't mind going with Goldschmidt, especially if you're stacking up a few of these Diamondbacks lefties. Greinke, I'm a little bit worried about his quality of contact he's giving up, but he's got the strikeout upside. I just don't know if I'll get to him on this slate. It's a good price for him for sure, but I think he's going to be over-owned. And I'm not really crazy about the spot in general. I don't know. Something's just telling me I don't really want to play Greinke, and it's my model, and I just don't really think that I'm going to force in Greinke. So the bats I like for Pittsburgh are Meadows and Dickerson and Moran. That's part of the reason I don't like Greinke. He's got like over 40% hard contact to lefties, and these guys all have quite a bit of power. Angels and Mariners. We have Garrett Richards going up against Marco Gonzalez. Richards is, what is he? 7,800 on DraftKings. He can have really good outings because of his stuff. But against a patient team like the Mariners, I'm really worried about a blow-up here. When he gets in trouble, he can lose it really quick. He can have blow-up innings. He can have 30-pitch innings. And I think he's going to be somewhat owned here. Maybe, the third or fourth most owned pitcher on the slate, because I don't really know where people are going to go for their SB2, and he might be a chalky option. In that case, I would be going to Haniger and Cruz, even Segura and D. Gordon, because they've got speed, and Richards is, below average on the base paths in terms of holding on runners. So Seattle bats, I am higher on than Richards here. Marco Gonzalez, I don't think is the craziest play, even against 8 to 9 righties. The Angels don't really strike out much, but 4,600 here. They don't have a ton of power. They don't really get on base that much, and you have to have an SP2 somewhere. And if I'm not going to Montgomery or Taillon or Garrett Richards too often, then Marco Gonzalez is going to be a guy I'll be heavier than the field on. I'm almost certain. He's at home. It's a big park. There's Trout in there. But I think he can go 6 innings, give you a few strikeouts, and allow you to get in the bats, most importantly. You're not playing Marco Gonzalez for 20 DK points here. You're playing him or because of what he allows you to get with the bats. And then the LA bats, it's Cozart, it's Trout, and it's not really much after that for me. All right, let's go to the main slate. Nationals and Yankees we will start with. Let me open up my DK tab. Oh boy. All right. Good old DK. So, we've got the Nationals and the Yankees. This one starts at 7:05 Eastern. I'm not sure who is going for the Nationals here. I saw it was going to be Eric Fetty, and that would be his second career start. He was fine against the Padres, but this is a different animal here in Yankee Stadium, so no thanks if it's going to be Fetty. The Yankees bats, I would like, if it is Fetty, would be pretty much 2 through 5. So Judge, Bird, Stanton, Sanchez. Pretty obvious stack here. I don't think I need to talk much about the Yankee stack here in Yankee Stadium. It's going to be Fetty. Gray, Sonny Gray going for the Yankees. I'm not on him here. I think this is a Daniel Murphy spot. I think it's a Bryce Harper spot. And this is a Nats stack spot for me. So Gray's coming off a couple good outings in a row. Maybe that'll keep people off the Nationals stack. But those were against Toronto and Baltimore. And this is in Yankee Stadium against a lot of lefty power and Daniel Murphy back in the lineup. That is a really tough ask for Sonny Gray. So I'm all over the Nationals, not on Sonny Gray. We've got the Rockies and Phillies. We have Tyler Anderson going up against Nick Pivetta, and 2 really good values here, in my opinion. I always look to play Anderson, and I'm probably going to do it against the Phillies here. Rhys Hoskins back in the lineup does scare me a little bit, as does Altherr and Santana, so they've got some power, but they still strike out quite a bit, and Anderson's got the stuff to make these guys miss. Pivetta, man, this is like the nut spot for him, and he is 7,500 on DraftKings, so I don't understand that pricing. It's Colorado on the road, one of the worst teams in the league against righties. He's going to get 6 righties. He's striking out 30% of righties. It just matches up so well for Pivetta, so he's going to be a chalky option, I'm sure, but he's one that I believe in his stuff, and I believe in him as a chalk option here. I think he should be the chalk. Minnesota and Detroit, Jose Barrios against Matt Boyd. Barrios, 28% K rate against right-handed hitting this year. I think he's a perfectly fine play for 11-2. There's a guy that I like right above him in his price range, but I think he makes for a nice pivot and it was Trevor Bauer I'm referring to, but if Bauer's going to be the chalk, then I think Barrios is a fine pivot there. Not looking to target any bats against him. I'm not going to Boyd either. I like the top 5 for the Twins. Same thing, lefty against the Twins. The contact numbers for Boyd are a little bit weird. Like the Baseball Savant numbers, the average exit velocity and stuff does not really add up with the Fangraph numbers. So I'm interested to see which one of those is correct, because that sort of changes a little bit for me. But I like the Twins here. I like Escobar, Dozier, Kepler, Rosario. I like the lefties, specifically Kepler and Rosario against left-handed pitching. I have really all year, and that's no different on this slate. San Francisco and Miami, Andrew Suarez going up against Caleb Smith. Suarez has a near 45% hard contact rate against righties on the year, and this is going to be another spot where I'm stacking up those Marlins against a lefty. So Brian Anderson, Real Muto, Castro are the 3 guys I always talk about, and then even Lewis Brinson too. He's been raking lately. Not sure what's really gotten into him, but hitting for some power. So that's good to see out of Lewis Brinson. I'm not the biggest fan of playing Caleb Smith here. I'm a big fan of his, but this matchup is really, really tough. The Giants have a bunch of guys in the top of the order that don't really strike out, and they hit lefties well. So I may be off Smith here for the first time in a while, and that price is probably enough for me to get me off of him at 9,100. And I don't mind a little bit of a Giants stack here either. So I'm on bats on both sides. It's Posey, McCutchen, Longoria are the main guys that I like. Smith gives up a lot of fly balls to righties when he's not striking them out. So a little bit of a Giants mini stack is on the table for me. Cleveland and Chicago, the White Sox, Trevor Bauer against Dylan Covey. Bauer is quickly becoming a guy that is one of my favorite guys to play. Just so much raw upside from slate to slate. You saw it in his last start out. I believe he went a complete game, and maybe not a complete game. Maybe he went 8 innings and 10 Ks or something like that. I don't have the game logs in front of me, but now he gets to face the White Sox, and he's my number 1 for the day. 11.5. I hope he's not super chalky because I really want to play Trevor Bauer here. He is an 11.5 pitcher these days, and I'm going to be jamming in some Trevor Bauer if he's not in the 40% ownership. So I don't think he will. I think I'll be safe on him there, but yes, just in love with Bauer. Covey has impressed lately as well, even in his start against Boston, his last start. So I don't really think I'm going to be full stacking the Indians. I mean, those top three against righties are always in play for me. You hear me say it pretty much every time they face a righty, but that's really about it. I don't think I can get to playing Covey, but just not really on that Indian stack based on what he's done so far. Cincinnati and Kansas City, Tyler Mahle against Jason Hamill. So both of these guys struggle with lefty power, and you want pretty much all the lefty power in this game from where I'm sitting. So Moustakas for the Royals. Wish I could get to more of a Royal stack, but I don't know that I will be on it. And then all the lefties against Jason Hamill. You guys know how I feel about him. I'm not really sure how he's surviving lately, but I will be targeting the lefties against him. I don't really respect his pitch arsenal. I don't really respect the way he doesn't miss bats. And the Reds have a 118 WRC plus and are getting on base the most against right-handed pitchers over the last month. So that's a really long-winded way for me to say I like me some Reds tonight. Schebler and Barnhart and Votto and Jeanette, Eugenio Suarez. I'll look for any excuse to play him. San Diego and St. Louis. Eric Lauer against Luke Weaver. I don't really respect Lauer either. He escaped with 7 walks in his last start. The walks are going to be an issue for him, and the hard hits are certainly going to be an issue for him. So I'm looking at another Cardinals stack with Pham and Jose Martinez and Marcell Ozuna, Yadi Molina, one of my favorite catchers on the slate. Just a fantastic stack once again. Weaver is at home. He's going up against the Padres. I think he'll be one of the chalkier options, 7,700 against San Diego, which is a great matchup. But I prefer Pivetta, so I don't know how much Weaver I'm actually going to get to. And I'm kind of excited about that. I'm not a huge fan of Weaver. Houston and Oakland. Garrett Cole against Paul Blackburn, I believe. I think Cole is a bit of an overprice, and I kind of hope people play him and pay all the way up over Bauer. Ownership will be important to me. I think I say that every single day, but ownership is important every day. But I just want to see where Cole is at compared to Bauer, compared to Jose Barrios, compared to Kenta Maeda. And I'll be going to Bauer and Barrios with the discount. Probably won't end up on too much Cole. Not targeting bats against him either, though. I don't think I need to get that crazy. Blackburn looked fine, but he needs some more digging. I don't know much about Paul Blackburn, and I like Astros bats, but I don't know that I could give the most informed take at this point for Paul Blackburn, so we'll hold off on him versus the Astros bats until the morning. Last game of the night, we have the Rangers and Dodgers. Kenta Maeda looking to start here against Cole Hamels. This is such a good matchup for Maeda. He's 9,400. I'm a little bit worried about him having a pitch count here, but and it is Dave Roberts, so there's a little bit of a risk with Maeda, but everything that I'm looking at, the swinging strike rate, the whiff rate, and then the matchup with Texas adds up to him being a phenomenal play for 9,400 on DraftKings as an SP1 or an SP2. So there is a ton of good pitching on this slate. Not looking to target bats against Maeda. And then Cole Hamels going for Texas. My nemesis, Cole Hamels. For the first time in a while, I'm not stacking against Cole Hamels. It has not been a profitable strategy for me and anyone that's been doing it. So I think Justin Turner is fine against Hamels, but, man, and maybe Matt Kemp, but not going to stack against Cole Hamels for the first time in a while. So enjoy your Dodgers 15 runs. And that will do it for both slates. We talked early. We talked Maine. Lots of games to get to on this Wednesday. Check out the ownership projections. Check out the rankings and the spotlight pitchers, spotlight hitters, spotlight stacks. We'll have that all out tomorrow morning, as well as the MLB strategy video and the live stream. Good luck, guys.